Our Lady of Sorrows Hospital, Richmond, Virginia, February 16th, 2009. She had spent most of the morning in one of the operating theatres undertaking an extremely delicate procedure requiring her complete and total concentration. Performing a biopsy on a malignant brain tumour had involved the use of microscopic surgery, yet another revolutionary breakthrough in the world of science. It allowed a surgeon the ability to magnify small fields of interest during an operation, as well as provide light in small cavities. During that time, her professionalism, as well as caring for the patient's well-being, hadn't allowed Scully to think about anything but the task at hand. However, after completing the surgery successfully, she'd returned to her office without a word to anyone. Picking up the phone, she dialed her partner's cell number, which she'd done numerous times during the night. Then, after receiving no answer yet again, she started to become worried. Just where in God's name was he? However, before she could contemplate on any answer, there was a knock at the door. "Yeah?" she called out, sounding rather tense. It was the last thing she needed right now. She really didn't want anyone to disturb her. Dr. Mark Holmes entered and walked straight into the room, a worried look etched upon his face. "Mark, is everything okay?" Dana asked, forgetting her own troubles for a moment. "I believe Naomi wasn't your chief assistant in surgery today?" he asked, concerned. "No," Scully replied, "but you've no need to worry," she added, trying to reassure him. "She called and told me she wasn't feeling well, thinks she might be coming down with the flu. So I gave her some sick leave and told her to stay at home and rest." Mark sighed with relief. "There's a lot of that going around lately. I'll give her a call later and see how she's doing." It was then he noticed his colleague was looking rather miserable. "Hey, you all right, Scully?" he asked, concerned. "A nurse told me you seemed rather distant today." That must have been one of the nurses who had assisted her during the last surgical procedure. Usually she thanked each one of them for their help, only this time she'd refrained from doing so, wishing only to escape to her office for sanctuary. "I'm fine," she lied. "You don't look fine," Mark said, noticing the dark circles under her eyes. "Did you get any sleep last night?" She could see he was only being a friend, but did not wish to be interrogated by him right now. "Comes with the job description, Mark, you know that," she stated firmly, averting her eyes from him. However, Mark knew their meeting had ended around 11 p.m., which meant she would have most likely arrived home close to midnight. She should have managed to get at least 4 or 5 hours of shut-eye. He could also see she was now refusing to look at him. "Dana, come on, what's wrong?" Realizing she wasn't going to be able to keep her personal problems private any longer, she reluctantly gave in. "Mulder didn't come home last night," she said worriedly. "Have you any idea where he might be?" Mark asked, slightly annoyed. Scully had already explained to him that in the past this guy of hers had a nasty habit of ditching her, and now he was feeling none too pleased, because from where he was standing, it looked like she was getting the same treatment all over again. "I've been calling his cell phone over and over, and nothing. It's dead to the world," she exclaimed bitterly. "Dana, you don't deserve this," he told her angrily. "If he's incapable of keeping his phone charged, or hell, while we're at it, can't even be bothered to call you, then why should you worry about him, huh?" "You don't understand, Mark," she replied, her voice wavering slightly. "Then explain it to me," he said, realizing he was perhaps pushing her a little harder than he should have. The truth of the matter was he hated seeing her like this, and also knew when she was upset, it usually had something to do with her partner. Scully did not wish to give a detailed account on this latest craze that Mulder had found to occupy his mind, but at least Mark was already aware of his obsessions with the paranormal to some extent, as she'd ended up telling him when he'd first come across her one morning looking so depressed. So she decided to explain her reasons to him, but keep them as brief as possible. Mark decided he was prepared to give her the benefit of the doubt, as she gave a sketchy description about the Bloody Mary folklore tales Mulder had described to her, but he noticed she kept pausing a great deal, and could tell it was because she didn't want to go into any more detail about the paranormal than she had to. "Dana," he interrupted, breaking up her line of thought, "I seem to recall you telling me before how Mulder disappeared, on numerous occasions, in fact, while you were working for the FBI?" "Yeah, he did," she replied. "And 9 times out of 10 it was because he'd got a hunch, which would more often than not lead to an emotional or physical threat," she added, emphasizing this fact strongly. "Sometimes it was like he had a sixth sense or something, and he would deliberately ditch me to try and keep me away from any possible danger that might occur." "So do you think maybe he called Bloody Mary 3 times in front of the mirror?" Mark asked her, devoid of all teasing. Surprised that he hadn't resorted to ribbing her about these myths, she confronted him with a question. "Don't tell me you believe in this legend." No, not really, Mark replied. He saw himself as a very down-to-earth, run-of-the-mill kind of guy, so in his eyes the paranormal was nothing more than a bunch of spooky fairy tales to frighten kids with. However, he respected his work colleague, and could tell she was hiding more than she wanted to admit. "But you do, Dana, or you wouldn't be this concerned about your boyfriend," he told her softly. "I try to keep an open mind, because working with Mulder sure made me question many things I had held sacred in life," she admitted. "We still managed to disagree on just about everything, though. He would never stop trying to make me accept the supernatural was the cause on our X-File cases, and likewise I would try time and time again to counteract his answers with a scientific explanation, and so on and so on." She cast a weary look at her friend and colleague and added, "We didn't see eye to eye on this Bloody Mary stuff either, and he left my office intent on solving these old FBI cases because he clearly believed they were related to these myths." "Well, I'm afraid all I can offer is a rational explanation for his disappearance," Mark said, trying to help in any way he could. "Which is?" "That maybe he's gone off sulking somewhere because you wouldn't listen to him," he suggested. "Thanks for the vote of confidence, Mark," she said, giving a hint of a smile. "I can see that any rational person would jump to that kind of conclusion." "But you think it's something else?" he interrupted. "Look, all I'm suggesting is you give it a few more days. Then, when Mulder's calmed down, he'll most likely come home with his tail between his legs." He took hold of her hand and squeezed it gently. "Until that time, maybe I can persuade you to have a drink with me. I really would like to try and cheer you up if I can." "That's really kind of you, Mark," she said, gently pulling her hand away, "but I think I'll pass." He feigned surprise by the rebuke of his offer. "Oh, Dana, I'm truly offended." Then a smile broke through. "Don't tell me you'd rather go home and sit in your empty house all alone so you can worry yourself even more about Mulder. Come on, it's only a drink, and I for one would love your company." Dana realized he was going to keep on trying this art of gentle persuasion until she finally agreed to go with him, and after all he was trying to help in his own way. She made a decision there and then to take Mark's advice and wait a couple more days. If Mulder still hadn't returned, then she would take matters into her own hands and turn towards the Federal Bureau of Investigation. She knew if she resorted to this plan of action that they would be far from overjoyed to see her, especially if her partner was the key reason she was contacting them. But hell, they damn well owed Mulder big time after kicking him out of the Bureau and shutting down the X-Files division for good, especially that agent Mosley Drummy, who'd persuaded her to get her partner to come to their assistance the last time. "Okay, Mark," she smiled sweetly, gathering up a coat and briefcase. "Just one drink, mind you." His eyes brightened, realizing he'd finally started to break through that layer of Dana's Scully, which she tended to keep secret from everyone around her. It was a part she kept well hidden from her everyday working life, and had only shared with her partner Mulder, it seemed. However strange and completely unbelievable it might appear to him, he couldn't help but feel rather privileged that she'd opened up about such things, which were obviously very personal. "Ever the gentleman, I see," Scully said, as he opened the door and held it for her. "Well, I try," he grinned. "Okay, next stop, Buffalo Wild Wings Grill and Bar." "You sure know the finest of places to take a girl," she teased. "Sure do, ma'am," he drawled in a terrible Texas accent. Without warning, a memory surfaced where Mulder and she had been sitting at a table adorned with a red and white cloth, happily tucking into buffalo wings. Scully remembered how during their conversation he'd reached over and with a napkin had tenderly dabbed at some barbecue sauce she'd left on the side of her mouth. That innocent gesture, among so many more that followed, had led to them falling deeply in love with each other, so much so that now she just couldn't imagine her life without him. "Please be okay," Scully prayed, hoping he would hear her thoughts. After all, this type of silent communication had worked for them a few times in the past, so why couldn't it do so again? Receiving nothing but Mark's ever-present voice now trying to convince her just how great the food was at this grill and bar, she heaved a small sigh, nodded, and quietly closed her office door behind them.